All right. Looks like, hold. Just waiting for the ping back from YouTube here, and we're live.
Hey, everybody. Hope you're having a good week. We are back here in the studios answering your questions live for the next hour on anything having to do with chastity, dating, relationships, parenting, marriage, breaking free from porn, finding the right person, getting rid of the wrong person, dealing with that. Any questions you have, if you want to submit a question, you can email it to us at live@chastity.com. You can click the link to the Discord server and actually call us through Discord if you want to talk in person and kind of banter back and forth a little bit. Whether you agree or disagree with church teaching on anything regarding human sexuality is what we do or who we are, give us a call. And we'd be happy to chat with you over the course of the next hour. Feel free also to share this show. That helps bump it up the algorithm over there at YouTube, so they show it to more people. Like, subscribe, and then just first want to thank everybody that's on our community over at Patreon. Patreon.com/Jason Everett. You guys make this show possible. This camera's being filmed. The show's being filmed with the camera that you guys got, patrons. The lights here, the computers, the mic, everything is you guys at Patreon. So if this show is helpful to you and you have not yet joined as a member, please hop over to patreon.com/Jason Everett. Helps us grow the show, helps us grow the family, and it's hugely appreciated by us, whether it's $5 a month or whatever. Everything makes a big difference. So Crystalina, good to have you back this week.
Yeah, every week, right?
What have we done this week?
Not much. We're just recovering from
Alaska. Yeah.
I feel like we're still out of it from Alaska, everyone. That's the truth.
Yeah.
A lot's happened, so.
And then we got a week, and it's off to Italy for what should be an amazing pilgrimage, flying into Venice, then up to the Dolomites. Going to check that out. Turin, Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati, down to Rome for the closing mass of the Jubilee with Pope Leo himself. So that should be exciting and fun. They're expecting up to 1 million people. We've got 80 people on our pilgrimage. So that one's pretty much filled up, but we do have an opportunity if you want to come with Crystalina and I to France. We've got the next one coming up. There are still spots available. And in fact, I think we need to get 12 more for the trip to be an official go. So 8 signed up right away, 12 more, then the whole thing's a go. And what it is we're flying to Paris, and then we're going to go to Lisieux, to the Basilica, where St. Therese's parents are, St. Therese's childhood home, to the Carmel, where she is at, St. Therese herself, spend some time there. Go over to Mount Saint Michel for a hike across the bay for the Feast of St. Michael at the Mount of St. Michael. So that should be an amazing day. Spend the night there at the Priory, and then take a bus down to Salem, which apparently has the most beautiful Gregorian chant in all of Europe. And we're going to live with the monks for like 2.5 days, just take up a monastic life and have a retreat there, and then up to Paris and home. And so if you're interested in joining us in this pilgrimage, like I said, spots are still available. Everything's covered in terms of room and board. If you need camping equipment, all the meals are provided. Everything is covered in this thing. So it's really nice. If you haven't done a lot of outdoor stuff and you're thinking, well, I don't have this or I don't have that, we got you covered top to bottom. So just go to jp2trails.com. That's JP, the number 2 trails.com. Sign up and join us in France in the end of September. So other than that, that's what's cooking on my end. You ready to take calls?
Yeah.
Josiah, what do we got cooking? How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, man. I'm doing really, really well.
And do you want to tell them what you got cooking next week too?
Yeah, we could talk about that.
Yeah.
So next Friday night, I will be hosting on at Kyle Whittington's channel a fundraiser, 6 hours long, to raise money for the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem's Humanitarian Fund, hoping to offset some of the costs that are going to come in from the church that was destroyed yesterday morning. So we'll be having 6 hours, and we'll be having different creators and different Catholic creators and apologists doing half-hour shifts on that, taking super chats, and we're going to donate all the funds to the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem. We're hoping to hit. We've got a really ambitious goal, but we're waiting to announce till we can do our math and make sure that it's
Not too ambitious.
somewhat achievable. Yeah.
Makes
So,
sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
but yeah, keep your eye out for that. And Jason will be on that stream actually for 1.5 hours. So if you want to next Friday night got a question you want to donate to Christians in the Holy Land next Friday night at 8:30 Eastern till 9:30 Eastern. Jason will be on that fundraiser stream. So thank you to you, Jason, for volunteering your time for that. We really appreciate it.
Oh, happy
And
to. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I've been over to
and
the Holy Land, and your heart just goes out to everybody there. My goodness. So anything we could do to help support what it is that you're doing for them, happy to.
so yeah, I hope everyone who sees this will consider going and watching that and donating, just so we can try to help them out. Help out our Christian brothers and sisters, do some corporal works of mercy, and have a good time in the meantime. While we do it,
Yeah.
holiness
Absolutely.
is fun. So,
Well,
all
at least
right,
it should be.
This is
it should be.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
All right. Okay, Jason, you wanna lay up?
Yeah, we'll start with a layup so I don't like pull a hammy. Yeah,
Okay, we'll start with the layup.
and then we'll get to the advanced
Don't tear an Achilles.
tough stuff. Yeah, we don't want that.
What?
Oh, yeah, true or
Why?
false?
What is the theological reasoning against women's ordination to the priesthood?
Oh, wow. There you go. Yeah,
That's like Jason.
it's because a woman can't be a father or a groom. And what the priesthood is Christ himself, people living out the vocation of Christ as a priest. And so, when you think of who Christ is to the church, Christ is the bridegroom. If you read the entire Gospels from an American lens, there's a lot that you miss. Crystal and I were talking the other night. I don't know if we were doing liturgy hours or what it was, but there's a particular passage, and I said, why Jesus says that he doesn't know the time that he's going to come back, only the Father knows, and she's like, no. I said, this is really cool. I said, when a Jewish boyfriend or whatever you call him back then would propose to a woman, he would typically do it in the presence of her family under what's called a huppah, which is kind of like this canopy, and he'd present her with a glass of wine. And this was a sign, if she received that they were going to enter into this covenant together. And so this was the beginning of the betrothal process. If she chose to accept to become his bride, then he would leave her gifts and say that now I'm going to go away to prepare a place for you, but then I'm going to come back at the time of the wedding feast. And so he would then leave the bride with these gifts, head off then to where would he go to prepare a place? He would go to the house of his own father. And his father was in charge of overseeing essentially the construction process of this house that the groom and the newlywed bride would share together. And it was the father who was in charge of saying when this little project would be completed. It was not up to the groom to say, I think it's good enough, let's get married. The father would have to say, now it's ready. And so if you read Jewish writings on this, they'll actually say that if you were to ask the groom when his wedding date would be, he would actually have to say, I do not know. Only the father knows. And so when the father decided, because his house had many, many rooms, that the preparations were complete, then he would tell the son, let the wedding feast begin. And so the groomsmen would come back. And meanwhile, the bride and her bridal party, they didn't know when the wedding was going to happen, and so they had to be prepared. And so they had oil in their lamps, because who knows when the bridegroom is going to return. And so the groomsmen would blow a shofar, the horn of a ram, perhaps even in the middle of the night, as a sign like the bridegroom is here, you better be ready, be prepared. And so he would show up and the nuptials would begin. She would have a nuptial bath where she basically bathes to become pure with aromatic spices and all kinds of fragrances to prepare for the wedding. There isn't a lot of writing on whether or not the groom takes a bath, but I'm sure she'd appreciate it if he would. But there's a bridal bath, a nuptial bath in preparation for the one flesh union. And so the wedding was announced, and this was a huge affair. It'd take like up a week long, because when you bring a whole caravan to come to someone's wedding from 80 miles away, you don't come for 2 hours and head home. You stay, you spend time with the family. That's why Christ multiplied 150 gallons of wine at the wedding feast of Cana. And so now you reverse all of this and you realize, wait a minute, that's the whole Gospels that you just gave us. John the Baptist, the best man, the book of Revelation, the horn being blown, the wedding feast of the Lamb, and you need to be wearing your wedding garments, the virgins with the oil that needs to be ready to be lit because the bridegroom might come in the middle of the night. All of this starts to come along. The nuptial bath is baptism in preparation for the one flesh union of the Holy Eucharist. And so Christ chose only men to take up this role. Now, Christ was very countercultural. He had female disciples, and there were priestesses at that time in other religions. It's not like, oh, well, back then they didn't have priestesses. Oh, yeah, they did. And he could have chosen. I mean, who would have been the perfect priestess but Our Lady? I mean, she could literally say, "This is my body." She could actually say that. But Christ had the perfect, spotless priestess if he wanted, but he chose not. The first person he brought the gospel to was a woman, at the Samaritan woman at the well. The first person to witness the resurrection was a woman. The first person to bring the news of the resurrection was a woman. But Christ, in his divine providence, realized, no, the priest needs to be an image of the groom. That's why when you become a priest, you go to the seminary. You're being trained to basically give this spiritual seed to become a father to your children. And so just as a man cannot take on the role of a mother superior because they can't be a mother, likewise, a woman cannot be a priest, because if you have a priestess representing the groom, you have, in a sense, a woman marrying a woman. And this is not God's plan for his church. Christ is the bridegroom. The priest is the one acting in the person of Christ. And bodies matter. The reality of male and female matters. It's not that women aren't holy enough, or this is a patriarchal invention. No, the woman is the image of the church. Christ chooses priests to image him in their masculinity as fathers and as grooms. And so if you want to dig more on this, why we have an all-male priesthood, is it just some boys' club and patriarchal problem? Go to Catholic.com. That's Catholic Answers, great apologetics website. You could just type in women in the priesthood and find out all kinds of stuff from, the ancient church teachings to modern apologetics and why this is. But that's kind of a theological backdrop as to why women are not called to the priesthood, because they can't be fathers, they can't be grooms, and that's precisely what a priest is. Any other thoughts?
I'm going to put this down in the most ABC terms. I'm not a theologian. I don't pretend to be, but basically it would turn it into a homosexual union. And that is why it's forbidden, period, correct? So what I'm hearing is that if a woman becomes a quote-unquote priest, it turns into literally a homosexual union on the altar, and that's just an abomination in itself. So it is not to be done.
Yeah, and if you look at
put it in ABC form, not to be like pushy or crude or just putting it out there, but in my understanding of what I'm hearing, just to relay it in an ABC way, that's basically what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and if you look at everybody pushing, and there aren't a lot, as many as there used to be 20, 30 years ago. Everyone's saying women's ordination, women. What's the general fruit of those people's apostolates? Are they promoting Eucharistic adoration, Marian devotion, the sacrament of reconciliation? What is really the spiritual fruit of the people pushing to change the sacrament of holy orders? They're really not. I mean, look at the, maybe convents where this type of theology was going on 30, 40 years ago. It's a graveyard now. Yeah. I mean, spiritually, it's a sterile environment. You don't have young women storming down the doors of these convents, I want to change the church's teachings on X, Y, and Z. No, I mean, the religious orders that are just bursting with vocations are radically Eucharistic, deeply interior, Marian evangelistic, faithful to church teachings, and their vocations crisis, they can't fit everybody. They don't have enough room for all these postulants and novices. And so, there's beautiful growth going on in the church in terms of vocations, but you do not find any of it happening in those who are trying to rewrite the language of the sacraments. There you go.
Awesome. That's phenomenal. Thank you for that. Oh, somebody just raised their hand. Perfect timing. So let's invite them to speak. AN365. Let's invite you up. If you just click hello, AN365. How are you? You can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
We can. What's your name?
Awesome. My name's Alexandra. Thank you so much for taking this question.
Absolutely.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you. So I am 25 years old and I would love to get married, and I have never been in a relationship ever, which is completely fine because my eyes are on Jesus. However, I just got a job and I'm so thankful for the job that I have because I was unemployed for about 9 months. So during those 9 months, I was going to daily mass, focusing on Jesus, and then he blessed me. So I guess now I'm kind of concerned because, I don't know how long I'm going to be single for, right? But is it bad if I try to move up as far as I can in the current position that I have, especially since, I have to take care of myself, I have to eat and everything. So I just am wondering, like, I don't want to be too masculine and I don't want to be like those career women that men run away from, if that makes sense. So I guess my question is, how do I maintain my femininity
Yeah.
while, I guess, just trying to climb up the corporate ladder? Not because that is what I value, but just because I think it's important to take care of yourself. And I live in a single parent household. I love to take care of my mom, help her with retirement. My brother, he's also in college. So that's my question.
Yeah, I would say pursue your dreams, like pursue your goals, because a lot of times the job is something that we do in order to get to somewhere we want to be. Well, my real hobby isn't, working in a cubicle from 9 to 5, but by doing this, it frees me up to do X, Y, and Z. I can tithe more to the church. I can go on these amazing vacations. I can do X, Y, Z. For some people, their job, is their dream, but for 90+% of people, it's maybe not their dream. So for you, climbing up the corporate ladder to me does not make you more masculine. It does not make you less feminine, in my opinion. In fact, if you meet a guy, I think he'll want you to succeed for your sake if this is your dream. And if he sees, no, like this isn't her dream to just climb up the corporate ladder and just, have this stuffy CEO position where she's working 9 to 5 and overtime every single week, he'll see your heart that like, no, my career is not my life, but I've become competent and successful. To me, a good guy wouldn't be intimidated by that. I don't think you'd even want to end up with a guy who would be intimidated by that. You want a guy who makes your dreams his dreams. Crystalina recommended the other day, let's put up this huge bulletin board in the bedroom, framed, all nice, that's just totally blank, and let's just fill it with the dreams together. Like, hey, maybe one day we can get a cabin, and then, on our 25th wedding anniversary, let's go back to Bora Bora where our honeymoon was. And let's just start pasting all of our dreams together and kind of dream casting together, and then just try to achieve those things as a couple. And so to me, there's nothing wrong in getting a head start in terms of what your dreams are. If a guy is intimidated by the fact that you happen to be successful, maybe it's because he lacks motivation or confidence and security in his own life. So I wouldn't say that you should feel any obligation whatsoever to hold back the best potential for what you could be, because you can bring the weight of your feminine genius to that corporation and make it a better place and, help the employees. And I remember just one story back, I was working once with a publisher and came out with a book on natural family planning, and they decided, let's have a meeting with all the execs here and decide what we want your book to be named. And when I show up at the meeting, there's about, 8 or 10 guys, and there were no women. And immediately I'm like, uh-oh, we'll see what comes out of here. And when the meeting, was kind of clear, they said, well, we decided what we really want your book to be named is Love, Sex, and Babies. And I'm like, no. And they're like, no, we really think it's good. But I'm thinking like, okay, they're going to introduce me to talk. Our author today is Jason, author of Love, Sex, and Babies. I'm like, no. But they went with it. And I just thought, man, if we just had one woman in that meeting, she'd be like, fellas, no, that's not the title we're going with. We got to pick something else. And, ended up being able to get the rights to the book and retitled it Pure Intimacy or whatever. But that being said, the place of a woman, whether it's, in whatever occupation as a single woman, is a great gift, in my opinion, to that organization. So don't hold back the gifts that you hope to give. I don't think that would stand in the way of you finding your vocation. But I'm sure Crystalina's got some thoughts as well, but those are mine.
Are you afraid your ambition is going
Thank you.
to make you unattractive to men within your company somehow?
In the company or the dating pool?
I'm asking. Just all around, like if you are successful, or is that something you're afraid of?
Yeah, because I went to a good school and the guys at the Catholic Center, they were like, no, like, I don't want my woman like working. And it was like a huge debate. And
Were you almost
I don't know. I don't
shamed?
think
Were
it
you
was, I don't think
shamed
it was
because of your
wounding.
were you ashamed because of your ambition? Like, were you shamed for it? Or it seems like I don't know, that maybe to go like back to ABC terms, is your light too bright for others, that sometimes you're too much for them, that you feel like you have to dim it, and getting back in the workforce and the dating, that you don't want to be too much?
Yeah, literally,
Hmm.
yeah. And it's like, and they don't mean it in a bad way. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, like not everyone sees it so deeply, but it's just like that's how I see it. So I don't
You know
really
what?
know.
I don't
Yeah.
want just,
I'm going to pull up that quote from the soulmate book that you put in there. Remember that one?
yeah,
Okay, while she talks, hold on.
this really irks me. And this is great. I'm so glad you brought this question up, because God did not give you the gifts, the talents, the mind, the capacity to problem solve, to have that ambition, to do what needs to be done, and to have that strength that pushes you. And it's a God-given wisdom and strength that you need to die to your own gifts to make other people uncomfortable around you.
Or
If
feel more comfortable, yeah.
anything, you I feel like you do God actually a disservice when you do that, because you are not letting his gifts work through you as they should. And maybe your gifts are too much for some people, but that's also shining light on their own insecurity, and that is their problem, not yours. And if they want to start working against you or bringing you down or start making you feel insecure, I would ask God for the wisdom as you enter into this secular workforce. I'm assuming it's secular, to actually have the wisdom to see things as what's being, what the truth is being presented to you, and not what they're giving you. Does that make sense? Like, that you're actually seeing people's intentions, and just ask for wisdom, because I think too many women out there dim the gifts and the light that God has given them, because they're too busy people pleasing when we need to be worried about God pleasing, right? And as long as you're in God's will and you're doing what he asks you to do, and you're not sinning or offending anyone, but you know you're doing what's right and you're doing it to the best of your ability, if that makes someone feel insecure, upset, or bothered, just remember you're just shining light on their inadequacies, and they don't like that. And so they can turn on you, but at the end of the day, every day you want to go to bed, and if you meet God one day saying, I did everything to the best of my ability, and I've done everything that you asked me in the positions you've given me, period. Does that help?
Yeah, and it's frustrating that the guys at the campus were like that. I mean, what do they want you to do? Like stand outside of the Newman Center with a sign that says like hungry? Like, I mean, like, what are you going to, I mean, yeah, no. So this is, I don't know if you want to read this or you want me to read it, but this was in toward the end of our book, How to Find Your Soulmate Without Losing Your Soul. Crystalina felt that this was something God was speaking to her heart, and she kind of wrote down this letter. But what she was saying was just echoing in my heart this. So here's the letter that Crystalina wrote before we met for what she felt God was saying to her. Why do you always seek man's approval? You're always wondering, do I look pretty enough? Do I sound smart enough? With a shadow of insecurity hovering above you, you're always trying to keep others interested. Meanwhile, you give yourself away while ignoring your gut. Don't be controlled by the amount of attention and approval you receive, and stop being ashamed of yourself. Your worth can't come from who you're with, what you wear, or what others think of you. Are you scared to admit your own self-worth? Do you keep your true beauty, gifts, and talents so locked away and hidden from the world that you can't truly see how amazing you are? Are you afraid of shining so brightly that the light will scare others away? Do not shy away from who you are because you fear abandonment or the negative opinions of others. You take scraps from the world, but I have given you everything you need deep within you. Everyone's light is different and some brighter than others, but do not be scared of your own light, for it was put in you that others who are blinded by their own darkness could see your light. Why are you scared and sad? Why do you belittle yourself and dim your own light? Your light was made to shine. That is its purpose. Your self-worth is within you and has been given to you for a purpose. Your beauty, God's beauty, was given for a great reason as well. The darkness has tried to extinguish this beauty within, but it cannot. It will not be put out. At times, you allow your insecurities to overpower you and your thoughts run wild, but with Jesus' love, you can control any vice, wickedness, or evil weapon that comes against you. It's time to rise up, unafraid of who you are, embrace it. And do not lower yourself or hide, because the power of my love and grace will always be there to catch you and show you the way. I will catch you, but will you let me? Deep down, You know who you are and what you're supposed to do. Stop lowering yourself to the world. Start rising to heaven. Even though it might seem far away, it's truly all around you. Heaven is watching, praying, and cheering you on. You have a whole army of angels and saints waiting, wanting to want you to succeed in your battle. But the biggest battle of all will be with yourself. Know who you are and what you are not. You are a beloved daughter of Jesus, he who is God. So to me, that was written, I think, for every woman who kind of doubts her light. But yeah, I'd say plow. Just because there's some college guys who are like, no, I don't even have her. I want her to be barely literate. I mean, I don't know what it is these guys expect, but no, you pursue your goals and your dreams, and God willing, if God's calling you the sacrament of marriage, he'll bring a guy into your path, but is not intimidated by your gifts, but rather is inspired by them, that does not perceive you as a threat to his masculinity, but rather a compliment to him and a partner in the vineyard, because you're competent, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're ambitious. These are not masculine traits, they're virtuous traits.
Does that help you?
Amen to that. Thank you guys so much.
Wait,
That
before
was
you
wonderful.
go, when you're
Oh, yeah.
discerning marriage and you're dating, make sure your significant other can handle your gifts and that wants you to succeed, that you actually see him helping you and lifting you up, and you're almost doing things together. And I hope, and I will be praying, that God brings you someone to work with in the vineyard, and not just someone that you're serving. Yes, you'll do that, but also that you're able to work together and to build the kingdom of God, and that he's not going to expect you to like lower yourself or your standards or your living or your gifts to be with him. Don't do that to yourself, because your significance is not in your significant other. You already have that in Jesus, and he obviously has endowed you with many gifts, and to use them well and to use them wisely. I was in adoration today and I read the most unbelievable quote by, I believe it was Saint Augustine. Okay, this was awesome, because your humility also in all of this is going to be a protection and a weapon, and it's something that we have, everybody has in their arsenal, and it's one of the bigger ones that we have, but that's very hard to use. Humility is a thing that everyone's scared of. Even to say the humility prayer, it's a scary thing. But when you have gifts, you're going to also have attacks, right? And when you're doing God's will, you're always going to be attacked not to do his will. And I read this quote that I thought was just beautiful and hit me between the eyes. And if I could find it quickly. Yeah, St. Thomas Aquinas said that, I'll hurry, I'm going, I'm sorry. It's so worth it though, you guys. Oh, here it is. St. Augustine. It was pride that changed angels into devils. It is humility that makes men as angels. And it's just beautiful. But just to always just stay humble in your gifts, but just always just stay close to Jesus in all things that you do. But find someone that you can work with together and that lifts you up, and that once you're married, he's not going to try to pull you down either.
Yeah, and just one note to encourage your heart. There are good guys out there who feel like, honestly, I really do want a wife who just wants to be home with the kids, and whose love is and her heart is in the home with the children, that doesn't want to run off to corporate America and be gone from us and drop the kids off at daycare. But I feel if I express any of that, I'm this misogynistic, patriarchal ogre, but I really would love to find a girl who has these values. And then let's say this good guy meets you, but you've got this big career. All it would take is a simple conversation on the first date of like, yeah, I'm climbing up the corporate ladder, whatever, I've been able to do X, Y, and Z, but my heart's with the family. I'd love to, I feel called to the sacrament of marriage, and to me, family, married life, that would come first, and I would ditch all the success of the world, just to be able to pursue one conversation. The guy would be like, keep her, this girl's on the same wavelength as I am, regardless of how many degrees she has in academia, whatever, it's awesome she's been this successful, but one conversation I think would be enough for a guy who's truly interested in you, who wants kind of a mom who prioritizes the family and a wife, for him to be able to diffuse all that fear of just like, even though she has been successful, I see where her heart is. And so I think that could be diffused quickly enough. And if a guy is going to run away just because you have a successful career, I think he's too superficial of a guy in the first place today. Yeah. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much. This was so helpful. Can you please remind me the name of the the book that you read the quote out of? I know you have a lot of books. I
It was
don't
called
like
How
my.
to Find Your Soulmate Without Losing Your Soul, 21 Secrets for
Okay.
Women, and that's at chastity.com. So it's basically 21 chapters on how to avoid losers, and I mean, the first chapter is the top 10 guys to avoid, but then it's just got different tips on healing and navigating the single years for any girl anywhere from 15 to 35 or whatever, how to find your soulmate without losing your soul.
Okay, I'm gonna buy that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Yay! Happy
God bless.
reading. God bless you.
Thanks, Alexandra.
Amen. Thank you.
Boom.
All right.
Fun stuff.
Um, all right, Jason. You want the none of these are not really any of these are layups left. So you want the but there's some straightforward three-pointers and there's some threes over coverage. What do you want?
Okay, I'll take a three-pointer. We're working our way out to the half-court shot.
Okay, yeah, you want to take the heave later?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your advice for handling wedding invitations from family that you know are contracting an invalid marriage? Can you attend an invalid wedding?
Yeah, no. Obviously, this one is a tough one because you want to be able to maintain a bridge with yourself and that person. But in the same respect, okay, am I going to be there as a witness to say, because your very presence there is announcing to everybody, I'm good with this. I'm okay with this. And so what I would try to do is to try to strike a compromise of like, I love you and I love Sally or whatever. But, as a Catholic, I believe that this would not be a valid sacramental marriage. Now, this being said, you could go to the wedding of two Buddhists. You could go to the wedding of two evangelical Christians who are entering into a valid sacramental union by virtue of the fact that they're both baptized. But if no, we're talking about a marriage that's supposed to be sacramentally valid between a Catholic and whatever, but for whatever reasons where it's a same-sex relationship or this person is already in a marriage that has not been annulled or whatever, and this is not going to be a valid marriage, then I think you have an obligation in love to kind of express that to the person of why you regret to inform them that you won't be able to be present during the ceremony, but you'd be happy to join them for the reception or something like that. So you could be present as a witness of love to encourage them as human beings, but you don't feel comfortable standing there as a witness to something that you don't believe is a sacramental bond. Now, obviously, this could go over any number of ways. This could incinerate the relationship. Like, well, if you're not going to do this, you're some judgmental, pharisaical bigot, and I never want to talk to you for the rest of my life. Could go that way. Another potential way it could go is to open up their eyes, as the book of, I believe it's either Sirach or Proverbs, faithful are the wounds of a friend. It's a peculiar expression. The faithful are the wounds of a friend. What it's getting at is if someone stabs you, are they your friend? Well, it depends. If they're mugging you and trying to get your wallet, not your friend. If it's a physician and he's creating an incision to take out a tumor, that cut is a faithful wound. It's coming out of love. And so authentic friendship is be willing to wound the beloved if it's a healing blow, so to speak. And so it's not a sign that you don't love them, that you're drawing a firm line in the sand. It's an expression of tough love. And so it'd be a difficult thing to do, but sometimes there's only one person, perhaps, of all the wedding invites that ever went out that would actually call them out on this. And it could be you. And you could be the thing that triggers their conscience to realize, hey, maybe we need to go through the annulment process before we move forward with this. Or maybe I need to rethink how healthy this relationship is. Because let's say it's really bad. We don't need to get into details. And the thing ends up going south in a year or two. And then they look back and like, hey, there was one person who was kind of trying to dissuade me from moving in this direction. And that was that one uncle or, my brother-in-law or whatever it is. And they shot straight with me. I think in the end, they might resent you short term, but will probably respect you long term, as opposed to if I just keep my values to myself, they'll respect you short term, but might resent you long term of like, wow, why didn't anybody speak up and maybe tell me that this wasn't the best idea? And so it's about speaking the truth in love and leaving the results up to God. It might go great, might go bad, but I think you have an obligation to go that route. Thoughts?
So I had someone in my life who's really like a father figure. Loved him as a father. I've known him.
Can you talk in your mic for me, please?
Can you hear me now? Is that better? So
Yeah,
bad
thank
with that.
you.
And I move my hands a lot. So
It's all good.
I had someone who was like this father figure for a good portion of my life. And they were getting married, and they asked if I would be part of the bridal party. And she used to be Catholic, but Nigel was not. He was not, who was my father figure. And he asked if I wanted to be in the wedding. And I had to tell him no. And I think I cried when I told them both no. And I know it probably really offended her. And well, it did. And it was horrible. It was one of the hardest things I had to do to a loved one in my family. And it was terrible. And I just cried and I cried. And a part of me even like, because this was years and years ago before I really dived into my faith, and I almost resented my faith for a moment there. Like, why can't we? And I didn't fully understand it, but I just knew I couldn't be a part of the wedding. Now, did I go to the wedding? Yes. Was I supposed to? No. And did I know that back then? Absolutely not. I wasn't educated enough in my faith. But it broke my heart, but I knew it was right. And it was something I had to do. And at the end of the day, it's like I almost heard Jesus whispering, like, do you love me more? And well, yes, of course I do. I didn't fully understand at the time, but it's like sometimes there's those moments in your life where you are tested, where it's just like, okay, maybe you have an addiction. It's like you just want to go back to it, but you know you can't. And just maybe hear Jesus whisper in your heart, like, do you love me more? Do you love me more than going to that wedding? Do you love me more than taking that drink? Do you love me more than looking at that porn in that moment when it's tempting and it's hard and you want to give in and you want to go and you don't care and you're like, oh, why not? And it goes against everything you want, but you know deep down you can't and you shouldn't, but deep down God knows those reasons and you know that. So there are times our obedience is everything, even when it's hard, even when it comes to family, that God does come first. Our faith does come first at the end of the day. And so I had to tell him no. I went to the wedding, but years, maybe 15 years later now, he converted and now he's Catholic, and she got her marriage annulled and they got convalidated, and it's beautiful. And would I have ever thought that would have happened? Even 15 years. And I've been praying and praying, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed for them, offered up masses, they become Catholic, and God would just open their eyes, and he did. And you just never know your actions now, what it can lead to down the road. So you keep on, you stay steadfast in what God is asking you to do, even those times when it's hard, because you may be being tested, and that's okay. Because it's a love relationship. And yes, I did love Jesus more, but it broke my heart at the same time. And sometimes those decisions are hard, but we always have to be obedient to what God is asking and what we know is right, and follow our Catholic faith.
Amen.
Awesome stuff. I have a question about that follow-up. I've heard that you can't go to the ceremony, but you can go to the reception.
See, I
And
don't
that
know.
and I know that's like I guess that's technically true, but it's always felt weird to me that you can't go to the ceremony, but you can go to the thing that's celebrating the ceremony. Like, is
That's
that a
fair.
prudent decision to go to the celebration of the ceremony after you just told these people that the ceremony you can't go because you think what they're doing is sinful, to go celebrate the sin?
I mean, the church obviously has not laid down a hard and fast rule, like no reception XYZ. The question at that point is like, is there a way to kind of keep a bridge somewhat between you and that person, where you're not endorsing it, you're not standing as a witness to the ceremony, but you're showing up to this thing later as more of a social event to show your love for them as a human being, and for you not to be at that, and then over here you're here. Some people might read that like, hey, pick a lane, fella. But other people be like, oh, I wonder if there must be a reason why he wouldn't be at the wedding, and hopefully get spur some conversation. But like Crystal said, in the end of the day, what you're trying to do is plant a seed, and then you water that in faith, and then hopefully it can stir up some fruitful conversations down the roads. But the church will not say you can't do this, can't do that when it comes to the reception. I would say it's up to your pastoral judgment in terms of what was going to be most effective. Like if you're just like carte blanche, nope, nothing. I'm not even going to send you a card. Not even because I'm not even going to give you a mass card and just nothing. The person might be like, you're just trying to cut me out of your life. Whereas like, I'm going to skip this, and I would say talk to them about this, whether you want to put it in a letter. And I think they'll see how hard this is for you, but that it's coming out of love. Mm-hmm. It's not coming out of hatred and bigotry or whatever, but of genuine concern. And hopefully when they see that it's coming from love, hopefully they'll be able to receive it a little more softly.
Just I would say one thing with going to the ceremony versus the reception is that when you're at the ceremony, you are joining in and taking part in a ritual, in that religion's ritual. It is a Catholic ritual that we have to take on a sacrament, which is a life changing oath with God. And it's ritualistic. And so when you are entering into that sacred space and you're going in there, you are taking part in all of that spiritually. So there's a spiritual level when you're going to a wedding and people are taking oaths. It's ritual. As to where you're going to a reception, well, it's a party, it's very different. It's a lot of times in a different place. So it's not entering that sanctuary, that holy of holies, that with God, it's going to a party and hanging out with people
Yeah, I
having cake,
understand.
Does that make sense? So at least
Yeah.
No, I understand.
that's
I'm
how
just
I
trying to
see
feel
it.
out the edges of it. So if I can ask
Yeah,
one more follow-up,
sure.
would your recommendation change for a naturally valid but sacramentally invalid wedding and a wedding that is naturally invalid, i.e., what I'm really asking is
Yes.
if it's like a court justice of the peace same-sex wedding,
Yep.
Same
do you
sex
go
wedding?
yeah, if it's a justice, like you see what I'm saying,
He's
I don't know
making a
if
distinction
naturally
here.
valid is the right
Yeah. Yeah,
term. Is
no,
that
no,
is that
I
the
see
term
what
I'm
you're.
seeking?
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying is like, let's say you've got a man and a woman who neither of whom is Christian, wanting to be married by the justice of a peace, in a courthouse or beach or whatever. You could go to that marriage. It's a legally
Right, yeah.
binding marriage. And it is in accord with the design of what God created marriage to be. A lifelong faithful union that's ordered towards procreation between one man and one woman. You could enter into that. Now, if it were a man marrying two women on the beach, then I would say, nuh-uh, that's not what marriage is supposed to be. Or a man marrying a man on the beach. It's not what God instituted marriage to be. It's not that the church doesn't have the authority, like, why won't you do this? Well, the church doesn't have the authority to change sacraments. The church can't rewrite the very definition of marriage. And so I think that what you're pointing out is a helpful distinction, because for someone who already is Catholic and they're entering into something that is not a sacrament for a Catholic, to enter into one of these unions is not a valid marriage. If it's not a sacrament, it's a sacrilege. And so why would we participate in a sacrilege? Now, so for, like I said, two people not baptized getting married by a justice of peace, that's still according to what God created marriage to be. So I don't see that as a sacrilege. But if you got a man marrying two women, or a man marrying a woman who's already married to somebody else, and the guy's Catholic, now we're entering into a sacrilegious thing. I think of when Saint Jean de Brebeuf was martyred by the Indians. One of the things they did to torture him was they baptized him in derision with boiling water. So they're mocking the sacrament of baptism while pouring boiling water over this priest. And so they're outright doing the inversion of a sacrament. A black mass is the inversion of a sacrament. Well, what's the inversion of the sacrament of marriage? It's we're taking Christ's love for the church and we're twisting it in some deliberate way, that it's not a reflection of Christ's love for the church. It's a perversion of that in one way or another, that it's not faithful or it's not monogamous, X, Y, Z. And so I would say if we're looking at an actual perversion of the sign of what marriage should be, that's not something that we should enter into a ritual and stand there as a witness. So that help? Pretty intense stuff.
Yeah. Okay,
Little
we have a
heavy.
caller.
Okay.
Let's see if they come up. There we go. Got them. All right, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hello?
Hello?
What's your name?
Are you muted?
All right, Starlight. I'm not being able to hear her. She's not muted, but I'm not being able to hear her. So I'm going to move you back to the audience, Starlight. We're going to go to our next question. If you can figure out your audio, I'll bring you back up.
Okay.
Sweet.
Okay. Let's do our heave. And then
Okay. This is from the
we'll
logo
cl- we'll bring
mid-court.
the logo mid-court. This is an email question.
Okay.
It says, I want to get into St. John Paul II's theology of the body, but I don't understand how his teaching of mutual submission works with the sorry, let me try to. I don't understand how his teaching of mutual submission can be true when no saint or pope taught it before John Paul II. Pius XI teaches a wife to obey the husband in a reasonable things that upholds her dignity, and Leo XIII says that authority belongs to the man as the head. How is John Paul II's teaching that the husband only leads by sacrificing true when everyone else teaches that the husband has a certain authority over the family?
Okay. I think what's important to realize here, the idea of mutual submission is not coming from St. John Paul II. It's coming from St. Paul, who said, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. This was very countercultural at the time of Christ. It's like, no, woman submit, man, just do your thing. And Paul is introducing a whole new idea here. Not that husband and wife are equal in terms of their roles within the family, but equal in terms of their dignity, that a husband should have a tenderness towards a wife and he should be able to submit to her. Why? Because she's his head? No, but out of reverence for Christ, that it would be out of reverence for Jesus that I'm looking, okay, in what way? Now, I like Christopher West when he talks about submission, coming from a couple of Latin words, submissio, under the mission of the other. And so when it says, women, be submissive to your husbands, and people all freak out. Okay, well, what's the mission of the husband? To lay down his life for his bride. Hey, I think a woman should be able to get behind that mission, right? If the guy is doing his mission. And so what Christ is trying to introduce here is, in a sense, that if you're both putting each other first, this thing's going to go right. And Paul also says, the husband is head of the wife as Christ is the head of the church. Paul says it clearly. So if Paul doesn't see a problem in saying the man is the head, but in some instances there's a mutual submission, but wives should submit to their husbands, Paul doesn't seem to feel an internal contradiction between these things because he understands the spirit of the letter, as opposed to someone who might misread that and say, mutual submission, then the woman's like the head of the husband. No, nowhere do we have that language that she's the head, that she's the image of Christ, that she's the domestic priest of the domestic church. We don't see any of that language. But the mutual submission idea is not coming from St. John Paul II. It's coming from the writings of St. Paul itself. And to me, when I interpret that as a husband, I don't read that as, okay, I play second fiddle to Crystalina and I just need to go wherever she wants to go, or otherwise it's going to create conflict, and then I got to be a little simp of a husband, or otherwise we're going to end up in an argument. We can't have that. Like, that's not what Paul...
word.
Yeah, I mean, that's not what Paul wants. That is... that is cowardice, and it's a form of reverse manipulation. Like, I'm going to manipulate you by giving you whatever you want, so you'll be the version of you that I want you to be. It's cowardice, it's manipulation, it's not God's plan for the family. A man needs to be willing to stir up the waters, to be able to say, nope, ain't going to happen. And if that causes conflict, we're going to have to talk this out. We're going to have to work this out. That, to me, that's not the way that he's going to get the disrespect of his wife. That's the only way to get the respect of the wife, that he has his own will, and he's got to say, look, just I need you to trust me on this one. And if it goes south and it doesn't work out the way I'm hoping, then I got to own it. It's on me, and I'll listen to what you think, and maybe we need to change course, because look at the scriptures. Husbands would do well to listen to their wife. I mean, think of Pontius Pilate's wife. Have nothing to do with that man. I had a dream last night about him, and I would suggest you wash those hands, Mr. Pilate. And so, God speaks to your spouse, to you sometimes, because you're so thick-skulled. The only way he can get you to listen to him is through her. And if I'm thinking like, no, the only source of valuable input is from God directly to me, and then I'll let her know what the Father says, good luck on that one. Women are intrinsically receptive, to others and to the Word of God. And if you're shutting out that mode of communication because I'm the head, I think it's going to lead to a path of ruin. So, Crystal, thoughts on submission, mutual submission, all that jazz?
I think that word submission in itself.
Crystal, can you talk into your mic, please?
Sorry. That word submission literally makes you have a sobering look at yourself, because it taps into your own pride. It really does. At least it did for me. And for the longest time, I really grappled with all of this. And it was very, very difficult, because growing up, I never saw a woman be submissive to a man once. And I saw a lot of distorted relationships in my family and growing up. So it was very hard for me when we got married, and just to submit, and what that meant. And And at first it was kind of hard finding answers because a lot of people are uncomfortable with that conversation, or at least they used to be back in the day. But now I understand it's really not just submitting, but it's really just this beautiful dance that you do together. Like, he needs to lead, and it can become this beautiful thing. And if I don't agree with Jason or something that's going on, we have a conversation about it. We pray about it. We discern things. We do things together. It's not, you're doing this and that's the end and that's what's happening. And I know he loves me. He wants what's best for me. He has my best interests at heart, and he's going to do what's best for our family. And I trust that. And there's a level of just letting go. And there was a long time in our marriage when I didn't want to let go. And I wanted just like, I don't agree with you. I don't want this, or I don't want that. And I just like held tight to what I wanted. And there's got to be a level of just letting go and trusting your husbands that they are going to lead you. And if that's not happening, and then bring it up. If something is going awry or there are distortions in that leading, that's where you get a spiritual director. That's where you get your priest. That's where you get counselors to help you. But at the end of the day, you should be able to relax and trust that your husband is going to do what is best for you and your family at the end of the day. Because at that end of that day, he answers to God for his decisions, his intentions behind those decisions, and what he did with the authority that was given to him by God. He will answer for everything. So don't think, oh, well, he's getting away with this and he's getting away with that. And I'm just sitting here and I'm always taking care of kids and he's always gone and this and that. No. Everyone answers for with the gifts that God has given them at the end of the day and what they did with them, their intentions behind it. And nobody's getting away with anything. Let's just be real about that. But just have the courage to maybe just let go and give it to God, and know he'll take care of you in the end.
Yep. And then also, do not allow yourself to be put off by the theology of the body because you heard that it says this or that. The text is 500-600 pages long, deep theology, and sometimes people who promote theology of the body, maybe misconstrue certain elements, and then you hear that and think, oh my goodness, throw the baby out with the bathwater. No, dig in. And I get it, it's intimidating because it's really dense theology. We did a book called Theology of the Body in 1 Hour, which would be a great kind of gateway drug into the theology of the body. It's at chastity.com, and it's just a real beautiful introduction to what John Paul's teaching. And I think as you start to dip your toe in, you realize like, wow, this is really a beautiful vision of human love. It's thoroughly biblical. Theology of the Body has more than 1,000 biblical references in the Wednesday audiences and the footnotes. So it's a thoroughly biblical reflection on what it means to be human. And so don't be afraid. Dive in. And I think you'll find that John Paul's vision of human love is an absolutely captivating one.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, guys. Real quick, and then we'll get back to our tempted caller. I just want to, if you can just give this a quick answer because it's pretty easy, but it was a follow-up on the wedding question we got in the Facebook chat. Thoughts on when it comes to a close family member / sibling who is celebrating a same-sex marriage who attended my own Catholic wedding mass to celebrate with me?
So the question is, can you go to that wedding because they came to your wedding?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem isn't like, is somebody going through a marriage ceremony? The question is, what is a sacrament? And so it's obviously completely fine for them to come to your wedding. And I can understand they would see this as like, look, I don't agree with the church's teachings on stuff. I don't agree with the church's teachings on same-sex marriage or XYZ, but I love you. And so I came to your wedding because I want to support you. And so they're coming at it from just, I support you as a human being, not, hey, I think your current marriage to your wife or whatever is not a valid one. They're not coming at it from that perspective. They just see it as a kind, sentimental, natural gesture that you would do for somebody else. And you could explain to them that I really appreciate the fact that you came, and I love the fact that you were present because you're always welcome in the church. The doors are wide open, that God loves you, and we're always happy to see you in the church. But I can't change the church's teaching. The church can't even change the church's teachings because it's not hers, it's from God. And so you explain why you're unable to attend the ceremony, not because you don't love her as much as she loves you, not because you hate her or her partner or whatever, but because you love them enough to be able to tell the truth to them, that a marriage between a woman and a woman is actually not a marriage, which really gets you to the heart of the issue. Is not why won't the church let these people marry? The question is, what is marriage? And if you wanted to really grapple with that, there's a great book called What is Marriage? Sharif, I believe, Gurgis, I mean, mauling the spelling of the back last name. I think Ryan Anderson might have played a role in writing that book as well, but it's a really succinct, academic, but really solid answer to that question of what is marriage, because at the end of the day, that's the question that needs to be asked.
Awesome. All right, let's bring up Starlight. Okay, Starlight, you're on stage. You can speak whenever you're ready. Hello, Starlight.
Starlight.
All right, can't hear
Starlight
him.
needs
Let's
a new
try
mic.
Ava here.
Okay, Ava.
Ava, you can speak whenever you're ready. Ava, you're muted. You'll have to unmute yourself.
All right, now can you hear me?
There we go.
Yep.
Ava.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry about that. I've never
That's okay.
used Discord before. I'm trying to figure out how it works.
That's all right.
Okay, so my question is I recently saw a post from a Catholic married couple, very traditional. I admire them in a lot of respects, but they said something I never heard before. So they were arguing that it is holier for a married couple to abstain in marriage, and to practice continence. So an example they gave was St. Louis. One of the reasons he was canonized was because he would only come together with his wife when they were trying to conceive. And so their point was the church has always says it's holier. The church has always said it is holier to basically be completely celibate within marriage. And I never heard that. I'm a theology teacher, lots of things, and I wanted your thoughts.
Yep. The reason you haven't heard it is because the church doesn't teach that.
Okay, that's okay.
You'd have a hard time finding an encyclical saying, hey, you're really, really holy if you only try to conceive during those couple hours of the entire month, when ovulation is going on, and any other time, you're just not as holy as those abstinent people over there. It's like, that's not God's design for marriage, because think about what that means. That means like, okay, you flipped over a pregnancy test, 9 months of abstinence, because, you can't be one, in any way, even if she just found out last week she's pregnant, can't do that. And the baby's born, and fertility might not come back for a year and a half. So that's another, year of abstinence for you guys, perhaps. And then, now fertility's back, 28 days of abstinence, 25, whatever it is. It's like, wait a minute, this is a far too rigorous interpretation of the church's teachings, which is not that the husband and wife need to deliberately intend to create human life every time they come together. All the church teaches is that you're not supposed to artificially thwart and block fertility during a naturally fertile time, which is contraception. And so if you want some ink on the church specifying that this is actually the teaching, go to John Paul II's book, Love and Responsibility, and later on in the book, when he talks about topics of sexual ethics, he dives into this, that this is actually a misreading of church teaching, that you can only be one flesh during a particular time, intentionally willing for life to be created. That was never God's intention, because if it were, then even then menopause hits, okay, you need to be celibate for the rest of your natural life, or you're just not holy. Well, here, guess what? Making love makes you holy when you do it according to God's plan. It's a sanctifying act, so sanctifying the devil can't stand it. I've heard some priests even describe it as a minor exorcism, that the image of the man and the woman, then they come together is in one flesh, so profoundly mirrors the inner life of the Blessed Trinity and the life-giving love of Jesus Christ for his bride, the church. The devil cannot bear it. it sanctifies them. It helps them grow in love for one another. And so anyone making you think, oh, you're just not holy because you're doing that thing, and that's what caused original sin. Like, whoa, wait, what caused original sin? Oh, yeah, because Adam and Eve, they became one flesh. Whoa, no. That has never been the church's teaching.
Yeah.
God is the one who said, be fruitful and multiply. It's the first command he gave to mankind. After Noah's Ark and the whole thing was wiped out, what's the first command he gave to Noah? Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. And so sex is not the devil's invention, it's God's. Every inch of the human body comes from the imagination of the most blessed Trinity. And so that one flesh union is something he wants them to experience, even during non-fertile times, because he knows it's strengthening their sacramental bond. And the more they love each other, the better off the kids are going to be, the better off the church and the world are going to be. Now, yeah, you could take times of abstinence, mutually agreed upon for time of prayer, like St. Paul talks about. You could offer that up as a kind of fast or a prayer. But even St. Paul says, don't stay apart too long, because this is good. It brings you close together. So thoughts?
Can you imagine Jason only wanting to get close to me when I was useful for birthing children? I mean, that's kind of a disgusting used thought. That makes me, that bothers me and irks me. And maybe I don't know anything about this couple. I don't know who they are. I don't know what their circumstances are. Or maybe it's a typo. God bless them. But at the end of the day, your connection with each other and your spousal connection is huge in your marriage, and being there for each other, emotionally, mentally, physically, and keeping that bond strong. And when that is not happening, there is a distance, and there almost is a crack within the foundation of the marriage. Like, if you two aren't being close and you aren't being intimate, something's off, something's wrong, what's happening? And you need to make sure you're just like on the same page, because when you are connected and you are close and you're living out God's will and you have a good prayer life together, you want to be close, right? And so to not have that within your marriage, you're kind of shaking your foundation a little bit, because it keeps you connected in the way that no one else in the world can be connected to your husband except you.
And if you think about it, I'm not a biologist or anything, but I wonder if humans are just about the only creature that engages in the sexual act outside of the fertile time. Because you think of animals in the rut or this or that. I mean, my son Michael and I were up in the mountains, just a couple weeks ago, and you see all the elk running through the forest, and the cows aren't anywhere around. I mean, the bucks are like, we don't need you. We ain't hanging out with the girls because y'all ain't in the rut. But when that rut's happening, now we'll be seeing you then. It's like, wait a minute. It's almost, in a sense, animalistic to not see the beauty of intimacy outside of procreation, just as if you flipped it backwards, where those who are, want to contracept, like, look, I want anything but the life-giving potential. To me, this is the opposite side of just the wrong coin, of just like all we want is the procreation. And God, I think, if he really wanted it that way, why would he create people that could only get fertile a couple days of the entire month? I mean, if this really was the church teaching, the church has done a miserable job of explaining, oh, by the way, you're really, really holy if you abstain for 25 days a month. There's a reason you ain't going to find that anywhere in the ink.
Yeah, no, that is totally kind of elaborating on my thoughts. I love what you just said about the animalistic side of it, because I guess the guy, he did say, he's like,
just so we don't get pushback in the comments, dolphins do engage in recreational sexual activity.
Okay, well, dolphins are awesome, so that's fine.
that makes sense.
They're intelligent. Yeah. So.
I just, like, they had said their first statement was sex is holy and ordained by God, and then went straight into, but okay, it's not as holy as abstaining. And I thought it just kind of created that kind of dangerous mindset that I've seen. I'm engaged now, and a lot of my friends are married, and kind of, being chased all throughout your relationship and then turning off that switch, if you will. And then I've had a lot of friends almost feel guilty for embracing their spouse in that way. And I just thought that their mentality kind of fed that. So I appreciate you guys elaborating on what I felt to be true, but I wanted to double check that I wasn't wrong.
Yeah, I think the devil just wants to get us out of balance one way or the other, of just like, either you can't say know, and you're always demanding of your spouse with no regard for their need, or to this idea of just like, I am just so darn holy, you can't touch me for the next 25 days. It's like, to me, I think the devil would cause division through that, and instead of peace and harmony and a growth of virtue of love. But, I remember there was a young man who's considering the priesthood and also thinking about married life, and he was friends with Pope John the 23rd, and I think one of the Pope's assistants, whether there's a bishop or whatever, and they were kind of guiding along this path of vocational discernment, and then the young man ended up deciding that he was called to the sacrament of marriage, and the bishop or whatever informed the Pope of this, of John the 23rd, of, I don't want to give you the bad news. The young man, he ended up falling for the trap. And the Pope was like, what? No. We don't have 6 sacraments and a trap. We have 7 sacraments. And so the sacrament of marriage is intended by God to sanctify people. It's an external sign instituted by Christ to confer grace. And so the vows spoken on the altar, you then go to the sanctuary of your bedroom, to the altar of the bed, and you're exchanging the wedding vows and renewing the wedding vows in the flesh, that I give myself to you freely, totally, faithfully, fruitfully. And, just as some people on anniversaries or whatever go through some like renewal of the vows kind of thing where they're just kind of strengthening the vows, you're doing that in the flesh. And so to me, if anything, excessive abstinence could be a sign of a lack of holiness in some couples, of just like whether I'm ticked off at you or whether like, you don't deserve it, or I want to manipulate you through abstinence. Like there could be a lack of abstinence there. But in rare cases, there could be Josephite marriages. You think of the valid marriage of Joseph and the Virgin Mary, that was a celibate one. And if you look in the history of the saints, there are some rare cases. Rare is the key word, but they do exist. Yeah. But what makes them holy, but then this one not holy? They listened to the will of God and they did it. And so we have to be able to listen. And if we're coming up with something, hey, I think God's calling me to be abstinent, with Crystalina for the next 80 years, I might want to run that by a spiritual director. Like, okay, is that really coming from the Holy Spirit? Or is it coming from a misdirected piety that thinks of sexuality as something kind of base and, I am, more spiritual, and so we don't have those physical things drag down our souls? It's like, that's kind of Gnostic, that's dualist. That's not really the Christian understanding of human sexuality.
Trust your God-given intuition when you feel something is off, or you're being told something, or someone's trying to convince you of something, and deep down, God whispers, God lets us know. Just trust that and find out whatever you're questioning, but don't ever just go with anything. And you always hear those little tugs of like, oh, that's not 100% right. Just trust that God-given intuition. And with you and your soon-to-be spouse, just pray about everything. Be very Eucharistic and don't let those cracks get in.
And in the meantime, speaking of strengthening marriages, it's past 7 o'clock and it's date night. So we're out of here because I want to go on a date with her. And so, we like to do the Q&As followed by date night or adoration. So,
it's fun. I hope that helped.
But thank you for calling in.
Question. That was a good one,
Ava.
actually.
I thought you were doing the outro. I didn't know you were still talking to her. So I just
okay, she can probably still hear us.
My bad, Ava.
Thank you for the call. But Josiah, thank you for moderating all these. If we did not get to your question, we apologize. Please keep sending the questions in. You can type them in Facebook comments, YouTube, whatever. Josiah checks those things out. Join us next week. It's either going to be Friday or Saturday, so we don't have the official time because we're heading off to Italy on the 27th, I think it is. But we'll be back in a week.
It'll be Friday.
Friday is the 20th. The Q&A is Friday?
It's not going to be Friday.
It's not going to be Friday, right? That's right. You got your deal going on. So probably Saturday. But we'll announce it on social media, let you know the exact time. But feel free to submit your question at live@chastity.com or join us live. But please like, comment, sharing. We've talked about it. If you just cut and paste the link to share it, even without pasting it anywhere, YouTube shows the video to more people. And so please don't forget to subscribe to the channel because a lot of people watch it and never think to click subscribe. That helps to grow the platform as well. And then support us on Patreon. And if you want to come with us to France, jp2trails.com. Coming up in late September, an unbelievable once-of-a-lifetime pilgrimage to Lisieux, Mont Saint-Michel, and Salem Monastery. So with that,
And Starlight, we'll get to your question next week. I'm so sorry we couldn't, or you couldn't figure out that, but just know you'll be in our prayers. But call us next week. Sorry.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
Everybody
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
You too. Thank you.